feel like all her sons and fighting, and I'm sure they're all very proud but very concerned as well.
Very proud. And you've alluded to in our discussions about today. Yes, we focus on what happens today because we see it constantly, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a past that we can also still address. One of the organizations that we talked about where people can be of assistance right here in the Chicagoland area is Honor Flight Chicago, which honors World War II veterans by taking them to our nation's capital to see the World War II monument, which was just built in the last decade. It was interesting that the Korea War Monument Memorial, the Vietnam Memorial, the wall, these were all built since, well, they were built and then the World War II monument.
Do the veterans realize that you're still working on finding the people that are still missing in their war? Are they aware that that's what you are still working on?
There are organizations, veterans organizations, whose focus is on having everyone come home. One of them, for instance, is known as Rolling Thunder, and the American Legion, the VFW. These are service organizations, mostly of veterans, but anyone can assist. Mm-hmm. There's auxiliaries to these organizations where you don't have to have been in uniform, or to participate. There are other things you can do. One of the local organizations in the Chicagoland area is called Operation Support Our Troops Illinois, and they help the soldiers who are deployed today. So that there are lots of opportunities for people who want to still
volunteer. And our program, has a lot of seniors that do watch the show, and people that are retired. You can be retired. You don't have to be a senior these days to retire, and I think that would be an interesting thing for people to do, and I think people are always looking for something to do, is to join, to volunteer for the military in some capacity that, that would make a difference in their lives. And I think a lot of us who, would like to pay back our military, in some way, a thank you payback, and how they can pay it back rather than, a lot of us cannot serve in the military, so our ages and other responsibilities, but there are organizations that they can volunteer. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Volunteerism is something that Americans are extremely good at. Finding those opportunities can be a little bit challenging, as when we were talking about things you would like to do.
Yes.
And trying to match up the skill sets you have. Well, there are so many opportunities in finding what is your niche and what makes you feel like you're contributing. That's a challenge, that is. But there is the Volunteer Service Corps, and if you look up volunteerism online, you can easily find lots of organizations. But there's the USO, like I mentioned, Operation Support Our Troops. There's Pizza for the Troops. There's the auxiliaries to the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the VFW, the American Legion, AMVETS. I mean, there must be 100 different opportunities for people to show their appreciation for the service that both our current serving and our past serving service members have rendered this country.
I know in Highwood, I live in Fort Sheridan, but not in the base. I live in that used to be a base, and I know that Fort Sheridan and Highwood especially really honors their servicemen.
Each December for the last couple of years, they've had a program called Highwood for the Holidays. Tremendous. Several hundred sailors and soldiers have come in for a day of relaxation and festivities, and that helps keep morale up. And that's a good thing.
I don't know if people realize that. I think we hear so much about the war and what's going on, and people are not, I don't know why we're not getting this information. I think we need the media more of the media, not just my show, but other shows too, to inform people where they can volunteer, what they can do for the military and their families. It's a family, isn't it? We were talking about it's not just the men that are serving the country, but it's also their families and their children.
What we look at in the Army is we don't enlist a soldier, we enlist a family. And we consider ourselves the Army family. So in the case of when you're a casualty assistance officer, as I was, the goal there is to assist the family in that transition between when their loved one walked this earth and now they have to go on alone. And that's a very traumatic period for many people. The initial shock of notification is one thing, but then how do you get through the money matters of getting the insurance, the servicemen's group life insurance? How do you get ready for the funeral? What do you do with the house? What do I do with all these things that I have, these clothes, these papers, all those kind of things? A family member, the next of kin, usually a spouse, sometimes it's a parent or children, they need some help with that. And we've done much better since World War II and Korea and Vietnam and being able to address that. There are some of these organizations that are volunteer organizations, they step in tremendously and help out families in the same way. The USO probably is the most recognized, and their programs in Chicago are unmatched in the country. A tremendous support for the military here and their family members here in Chicago.
What about their homes? Now, if, say, a military, he no longer comes back, and they're living in a military housing, does the family still can remain in the military housing? Or
there is a period of time that they can, but eventually they need to move on with their life.
I see.
And it's part of the transition that the assistance officer helps them for. In my case, it wasn't a condition, but that's because I have a very unique, a good news story in that it was a World War II pilot, not someone more recent. However, I am also currently operating another assistance case with one of our own soldiers from my unit who did not die in a combat situation, but had a heart attack and left his family behind just recently. And I'm got that mission as well. So I'm helping the wife right now get through this period.
How do you handle your stress?
Well, it's when you have a good news story and you like the Obinsky group, it's you throw yourself into the research. For instance, I was able to find out that the unit that he served in, the 4th Troop Carrier Squadron, is the legacy unit of the 4th Airlift Squadron. And I contacted the commander of that unit, who came last March to Marengo, to Eddie's home, and we returned that dog tag to him. It's helpful when you have a lot more people around you to get you through it, but you have to stay focused. And staying focused on what your mission is and how to help that family is to not lose it. Sure, if you drop a tear, that's fine, because it shows you're human. One of the harder parts, though, is when you're on the funeral honors detail, which is the third element of this, and I've done that as well. When you hear those rifle volleys and the bugler playing taps, see the folding of the flag. And the last part, then, is when you take that flag and hand it to the next of kin.
The triangle flag.
My father has said that the hardest part for him to see that is that slow salute right after you hand the flag off. Well, having done that, I fully understand.
Well, Colonel Aycock, it has been rewarding and it's been a pleasure, and I've enjoyed our meetings and our show today, and I hope I hope that our viewers really understand